We are watching as these countries are willing to be seen with Russia. What kind of outcomes do you expect you were detailing, of course, some of the complexity of the various relationships between India and China, but what about with Russia on the whole?
I think each side will use this as an opportunity to put their messages across as opposed to achieving anything terribly concrete. This isn't just the BRICS. Lots of other international groupings at the moment, including the G20, are divided and struggle to get anything done. So you might see, for instance, some extra funding for the new development bank, otherwise known as the BRICS Bank, but that's not all that significant. I think the most important thing is that China and Russia will use this as a messaging body to appeal to others in the global south. They might float the idea of the BRICS being expanded as well. That's something that China has pushed to maybe include countries like Turkey to make this grouping a little bit more weighty on the international stage.
Do you think that is likely, that Turkey might join? And what other economies in the world are possibly on the table to join the BRICS grouping? And obviously, it wouldn't be BRICS anymore, it would be something else.
So China has floated the idea of an expansion. The logical other countries to join would be the non-Western members of the G20. So that takes you to Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. There's a range of larger emerging economies which are part of these other groupings. And what China, I think, ideally would like would be to have a substantial grouping of emerging and developing economies that would act as a counterweight to those international bodies that have the United States and its allies at their heart. Whether this is going to happen, I think, is a moot point. As you say, the BRICS has a very specific history of being these 5 countries, and whether or not a country like Turkey would actually want to join and see it in its interest certainly isn't clear at the moment.
And it's ironic, isn't it? I mean, you talked about the fact that it's not really a cohesive bloc at all. There's a lot of internal divisions, and really, the only cohesion is the fact that they've got the first letter of each of their names lumped together. What is the outlook on those internal divisions? Where might we see some progress in a thawing and rapprochement of relations?
I think that's right. And the funny thing about the BRICS is it was very fashionable as a grouping, as a way of understanding and model of globalization 5 or 10 years ago. But then almost every member went off it, including China. I mean, for a while, China had its own playthings. So the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in geopolitics, it had its Belt and Road Initiative in infrastructure. And it's only recently, in the aftermath of Ukraine and as geopolitical competition with the US has ramped up, that China has returned to the BRICS and seen an opportunity to promote China's model of governance and to make connections in the emerging world. However, as I say, I just think there's limitations to how much they can do with this body because of India in particular. There were even some suggestions that India might not even turn up this time. So Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, had to take an emergency trip to Delhi a few months ago just to make sure that India were actually going to come. So if you have some doubts over whether members will even attend, then I think the chances of the BRICS as a body getting much done are not very high.